Poetry Center, bringing poetry to Paterson since 1980 at Passaic County Community College.
Thanks, guys. And I want to give a special thank you to John Ming, who has done all the videotaping of all these programs that we've done, and then he interviews people after, and then he makes up a little show, and we put it on our YouTube page. So it's been going on for a long time, and we have the most famous poets in America on that YouTube page, and we have people whose work I thought should be heard by more people. And what I love is opening the door for other people and other poets and giving opportunities to people who might not have been heard about from somebody else. But once you feature them, it kind of gives them an opportunity to showcase themselves and to let people see them, and more people find out about their work and grow to love it. I want to say that the Distinguished Poetry Series, I started in 1979. I always say 1980 because 1980 was the first year that I got a grant from the New Jersey State Council on the Arts to help support the program. Before that, I was begging my friends who were poets to come and read and that kind of thing. So I did it for about 4 years before 1980, but I don't count that because the actual first Good Arts Keeping seal of approval came in 1980 when I had the nerve to fill out a grant application and get the grant for the college for the Poetry Center, which had already been established, but I call it 1980. It's just easier. Then they just did a little piece on me and interviewed me in Poets and Writers, and the editor said to me, wasn't it 1979 and not 1980? I said, make it 79. It actually was 76, but who's squibbling over here at this point? I'm not going to be fighting about it. Anyway, none of these programs would be possible without grants from the New Jersey State Council on the Arts, the National Endowment for the Arts, the individual donors who give us money, and people who leave us money in their wills, and people who write checks to the Poetry Center and become members and donors for the Poetry Center. And I really appreciate that support because it means that these programs mean something to people. And then the person I have to thank, who has been very supportive of all of our programs, and we have a lot of programs. Please look at the art, especially since some of the art is mine and some is Linda Hilringhouse's. So I hope you'll go looking at all the art all through the room. Anyway, Steve Rose is the president of the college, and he's been super supportive of the program, and he loves the program, and he's been very helpful with it and has really supported it in many ways. Financially, also by giving us the building to use. For 11 years, I was behind some bookshelves in the library. Then I got a real office. And then they moved us over here and gave us this building to use for cultural programs. And it's been wonderful. The building is beautiful. I must say that it was a gentleman's club, so I could not have gotten in. They didn't allow Italians and Jews in first. They certainly didn't allow African Americans, and they didn't allow women. So there are a lot of ways I would not have been allowed to be in this club. So I sort of feel like I'm giving them the poke in the eye by being here and being here now for 20-some years in this building running programs. Anyway, I want to make sure also to thank Smita Desai, who is my secretary and my assistant, and who is the most wonderful helper that anyone could possibly ask for. And also Susan Balick, who helps with all sorts of technical things, and she's wonderful at doing all the things I now hate to do. I did them. I learned how to do them. I had never done anything but teach, but I learned how to write a grant and how to write a grant report and how to write a press release, and now I dumped all that on Sue. And Sue does it beautifully, needs very little direction, and is able to get everything done very efficiently. So that's wonderful to know that you have somebody who you can rely on for this kind of thing. We have a number of programs that we do here besides the Poetry Center, and so I hope you'll look at the brochure about the programs here, and we try to make it a lively, interesting place for a lot of people. And I love the workshops, whether we're doing art workshops or whether we're doing poetry workshops, because it invites people in and allows them to work on their own work and develop themselves. Today, I'm very honored to have two amazing poets. One is Dr. Tara Betts, who is the author of Refuse to Disappear, Break the Habit, Arc, and Q. She served as the inaugural poet for the People Practitioner Fellowship at the University of Chicago. Betts currently teaches as a professor of practice and poetry and poet in residence at DePaul University's Peace, Justice, and Conflict Studies program, and serves as poetry editor for the Langston Hughes Review. I have to say that Tara is also a graduate of Binghamton University, and I was fortunate enough to have her as one of my PhD students, and I was very lucky to have her and loved her, fell in love with her from the first moment I met her. I also think you'll find that her poetry is very electric, very alive. It's like she lights a fire on the page and really gives us a sense of her life and life as a Black woman in America. Let's welcome Tara Betts.
Thank you, Maria. I have to say, when I went to my PhD program, that you were instrumental in me getting into. In a lot of ways, that program kind of saved my life. It was a hard time when I came there, in a lot of ways, but it was also a time that was really productive, and I made it through that, and now I'm like, okay, what else can you throw at me? I'm good, you know? So I'm really appreciative of how it made me so resilient to go through that time. And that
it was
we
a
got
hard
to be
time.
Friends, you know? Because I could talk to you more than I could talk to some of the other students. I was like, yeah, it's like I have another auntie. I love it. So I like sometimes starting with a new poem, and one of my friends, Saida, who's here today, loves to start with a new poem. So I'll start with one that I wrote in the workshop because I like to write with my fellow poets. Okay. The promise of trouble wet the day that morning. Sunlight peeked through the clouds, and we would have called it the devil beating his wife when I was a kid. Today, I know the gentle palm of a man against the small of my back, the cautious warmth of his hand radiating on skin, his smile that could evaporate rain and make the gray disappear. He is solar possibility without knowing how long I had to be my own sun, without knowing how many days I spent in the dark. So no, I won't need rain boots, a trench coat, or an umbrella. The clouds gently fray so the light enters. I find myself less worried about floods and damp clothes.
I love it, Tara. That's beautiful.
Thank you, thank you. So I have both of these books today, Break the Habit, which I wrote in Maria's class mostly. And then, which is, you know, there's things in the book that I find are difficult to read, but some things I'm like, they still stand. And then the newer book is Refuse to Disappear. So is there anything you want me to read today?
I just love your all poems, and so no, you pick, you choose, honey.
Okay. I can't always read with my glasses on. It feels weird. So,
Are you able to see with the glasses
you
on?
know, I need a new prescription. It's a long story. There's one, lately I've been getting these images, like these little videos of baby turtles popping out of the ocean in my Instagram feed. And it made me think about this poem that's in Break the Habit. It's about a sad time. I promise I won't stay there. Arribada. The documentary fills the television screen with oceanic blue that calms the blood film breaking away inside me. Another month, a new moon where female Ridley turtles storm a beach, and night vision cameras catch their determined eyes and flippers lobbing over the backs of other crowded turtles already digging their own nests. They come during the new moon, when tides are lulled and few eggs pop free from the sand like smooth golf balls escaping sand traps. Buried eggs avoid vultures that crack turtle sibling shells and drink the yolk of each unformed turtle. The water exhales with the current's rhythm. I think of every unused egg I have released since age 13, the thick red that has come again just after he says, "I'm leaving you. I'm not thinking of coming back." The sand-colored couch becomes shore. Another unused egg seeps out. Unlike the two poached by the beak of Curtage years ago, the same beak he says I can seek out again. I've arrived at a place I never expected, without ocean, under a full moon. So let's see, what's the happier stuff?
You don't need happier stuff. This is a very sophisticated audience.
You know,
they
but
probably really like sad stuff.
You know, but I think I always tell my students a good book of poems, or one that I go back to, it usually has levity and gravity. Right?
Both.
You gotta have both, because we know one can't be without the other, right? So I'm like, oh, when it gets too depressing, then I'm like, Lord, we're gonna be in this all day, aren't we? But yeah, so I'm always thinking about one of the poems that really was surprisingly more popular than I thought it would be when this book came out was I wrote a poem for Lieutenant Uhura, which if you are a Star Trek fan, you know what's what. And at the time when the book came out, Nichelle Nichols, who played Lieutenant Uhura, passed. So I'm gonna read this one. I feel like it's more fun and it celebrates who she was and what Martin Luther King thought she was, because it was before the Afrofuturism movement when Star Trek started. So I think she's one of the emblems of that. Litany for Lieutenant Nyota Uhura. Jet black curl whipped past her ear, lined to the rounded angle of cheek. Matched to meticulous batwing eyeliner, the red line sleek against thigh, then calves, interrupted by black boots. But first, benediction. In praise of communicator chips, in praise of the flashing monitors, in praise of swirling chair that gave, of her sharp lashes and poised vista of face. Enough, yet not enough. Martin Luther King, another captain of sorts, offered his gospel. She was to be seen rocketing toward future. She is the vessel that carries and delivers. When she is navigator, guide, and seer, she is the vessel that carries and delivers. How often she is captain without title, blamed as commander without privilege. Question: did the Vulcan ever ask her about what it feels like to be different? He removed his pointy ears and brows daily, ruffled his hair to normalcy, released his anesthetizing grip. She takes off the wig, but still wears herself, irreversible skin. She becomes vessel that carries and delivers. She serves as navigator, guide, and seer. She is the vessel that carries and delivers. How often she is captain without title, commander without privilege. The conversation that never happened. I waited, For you and Sulu to cast glances like unwritten spells, give each other silent nods, forge some way to defect if aliens became allies. If the captain barked too many times and forgot you were not just polished umber to be fantasized about in a later episode. When you recall your surname means freedom, and Sulu C touches Asia. When slavery and internment camps failed to turn your ancestors to dust, you, fourth in command, a helmsman never called lieutenant, could direct and story and steer the Starship Enterprise.
Wonderful, honey.
I'm gonna read another poem because Maria always has stories. She doesn't always tell all her great stories on camera. But there's this one, and I was thinking about it when I was looking at this poem, where you were talking about you, I think it was Marilyn Chin and Wanda Coleman shutting down the restaurant. And you guys were just laughing and having a good time. And then they started putting up the chairs.
Wanda and I are louder than the Starship Enterprise. And the people wanted to kill us. It was Marilyn Chin, my daughter, Wanda and I in this restaurant, and we stayed until 4:30. We got there at 12, and finally I turn around and I see the waiters and waitresses giving us the stink eye, and I'm going, Wanda, we have to leave. Nah, Wanda was not leaving. I loved Wanda.
Wanda was great.
What a wonderful person she was. I just loved her, and I loved her exuberance. I loved the way nothing could shut her up.
I know. And she was so prolific and just
and
bold.
so strong.
Just bold.
And then she dies very shortly after I read with her.
Yeah.
Maybe there was a connection, no. But anyway, I couldn't believe it. I hear that she's sick and then she dies.
Yeah.
And she seems so strong to me.
Yeah.
Physically
me too.
strong. Anyway, go ahead, honey. I didn't mean to interrupt by blabbing.
No, I'm glad because I wanted people to get that on documented that story and that occasion happened. Like sometimes we let it go by. But I remember I met Wanda in Ohio. There was a Black Poets Conference, and I was presenting at it, and I was still young and nervous, and I was just like darting around. I'm like, oh my God, am I supposed to be in the room with these people? And she was there, and I mentioned her poem on one of the panels, and then we ended up being in another presentation together. And I was just so like in awe. So I was still slamming at the time, and we went ahead and we stayed in touch. So I emailed her. I said, I'm reading in Los Angeles at this slam. So she came to this slam, and it was all these kids. And she's like in the middle of the audience. And I was like, do y'all know who's here? And they're just looking at me. And I said, that's Wanda Coleman. And they're like, who is that? And I'm just like,
who's that, you idiots?
you know, but the good part was she hung around. She's like, where do you want to go? And she said she would take me on a tour of LA. But we ended up going to Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles. So I wrote a poem about it. I won't tell you everything we talked about because she's real spicy too. But this is the poem. Roscoe's with Wanda. Los Angeles let me have a gift. Wanda Coleman asked me where I wanted to go, offered to take me on a tour that started at Viper Room, where River Phoenix crumbled down to his last breath. I didn't want the whole strip, but I said, let's go to Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles, where we sat with our plates, buckwheat pancakes for me, chicken and waffles for everyone else, since I simply craved a pilgrimage to where the rappers like Tupac shared plates. And I got Wanda with all her words and her voice like heavy opera, and I got Wanda cussing and laughing, and Wanda talking about mysteries in poems and reading books we couldn't afford to buy, and Vallejo's Trilsa. The thick tangled branches of her locks, her black jacket veined with bright colors, and flourishes of her hands on outstretched arms insisting on her worth. And she knew I saw hers, and she saw mine, in spite of all our lumps, without ribbons or bows.
Wonderful, honey. You caught her.
Yeah, she'll get you.
Yes, she did.
Yeah. Speaking of friends, I wrote this poem. I keep threatening to tell my best friend I need to do a chapbook with just the poems where he pops up in there. But this poem is called Fubu, and it's after the song by Solange Knowles from Seat at the Table. Fubu. I am sitting in a cafe with my boy that I have known longer than my students have been alive, before the birth of his firstborn son. And the waiter wears a tight black camisole with bright green beads. We smile because he is living his joy. And how many people do that on the daily? And how many of us know that joy, like pink and blue hair clips latched onto flawless waves, and we must know someday where we are as serene as Solange's expression, always shaming Mona Lisa, who never knew about the ice grill or paper cranes. And I find myself wanting to raise my fists like I'm in an elevator with my sister's husband talking sideways. But I have no sisters as blood kin. I find myself waiting to celebrate all the history that made me and be a little gutter too, because once I carry it in my pocket, it's my slingshot and my stone rubbed smooth by fingers and time. I find myself counting the sway of what I claim and protecting it like the last medallion that could be stolen. I'm skipping around. There's a couple things. So when I moved back to Chicago, I lived in this building in Hyde Park near UFC for a while, and one of my neighbors was a pit bull, and I said, he has to be in this book. I mean, he was just so friendly, and I think people give pit bulls the bad rap, so this is for him. Priest the Pit Bull. Priest the Pit Bull greeted me the first day he moved into my building, his tan fur shining as he wiggled. At least 3/4 of his body wagged when I patted his head and stroked his sinewed back. His mouth, open and panting, made up at least half of his face, full of teeth, but gently smiling. I called his name, shouted to him and the other neighbors when I heard his ticking claws on the hallway tiles. I'd laugh about Ron O'Neal playing his namesake in Superfly. He'd quietly trot over and let me pet him. He never needed a leash. Nothing felt like fear gnashing its teeth into the back of my hand. I make it a habit to return kindness to other living beings, even when the world marks them as dangerous. How are we doing on time?
Let's see.
Okay.
You have about 7 minutes.
Okay, so I'll be quick. I'll read some from this and some from the other book. I used to teach poetry classes at Stateville Prison, which is just outside of the city of Chicago. They shot part of Natural Born Killers there. You might know it because John Wayne Gacy and Richard Speck were incarcerated there. Thankfully, they were not there when I was there. But I had some of the best poetry classes I've ever had at Stateville Prison, just in terms of people who were really excited to talk about poetry. And this is a poem for them and Albert, who is now free and living a good life, so I'm happy for him. Small illuminations. 1. Albert is a gentle tower, his arms arched over tabletop like bridge beams or girders. Even if he does not understand everything he reads, he smiles, like a good kid, like the kid he probably was 30-some years ago when he was in the wrong car with the wrong people at the wrong time that he will never get back. 2. The attention to detail borders on flawless, unscuffed white sneakers, perfected line fades tucked under precisely folded scullies, immaculate with what you got as a clean, hard-fought pride. 3. 1 week, I bring crisp folders, a bundle of sharpened pencils with full pink erasers, round and soft as a doll's blush. They rub away small errors, clearing smudges from a page like an actual correction. 4. I look for Albert's easy grin first when I walk into the concrete block classroom, locked in the education building, relieved that the broken window denies the cold like a plea. One brother in blues with thermal sleeves peeking out of the dull faded ocean of cloth, arching over his torso. A cellmate hands me the slightly worn, safeguarded, staple-bound book of poems, the signature resolute and matching letters of a poet's name who strolled into prison like a mother without fear of any child. Margaret Burroughs. More than a decade since she left the cell of her body, I clutch her poems knowing how they passed from her hands like a prayer. We both smile, small illuminations in a dark hell, when the cellmate says, Albert wanted you to have this. He got transferred. He knew you would keep it safe.
Oh.
And as I pull up the last poem, Dr. Margaret Burroughs, founded DuSable Museum and the Southside Community Arts Center, which is the only WPA arts center that has been consistently running since it opened. Still in Chicago on the South Side, across the street from her house. And wonderful poet, wonderful visual artist, huge legacy in Chicago and for Black history museums everywhere. She's amazing. So it wouldn't be right if I didn't end with a poem that wasn't set in New Jersey. So I'm going to close with a poem set in New Jersey, actually headed to Newark Airport in this poem. And if you like Adele and The Cure, then maybe you'll be happy too. Love song. After he left, you bought new headphones with the slim silver device that slips into pockets without square buttons, cassettes, or CDs. You build a library of growing sounds, old and new. Add the British girl who taps into ore of women's losses like a prospector. Adele rises brash, full-bodied, telling off the one who walked out foolhardy and soon to regret. You need that rhapsody since you are spending Christmas in Coquitos with your girl back from Brazil. She is sun-kissed with Tinkerbell flip-flops. You are meeting her when she lands. On the way to Newark Airport baggage claim, you find yourself alone in a shuttle car, winding around the airport through the quiet night. Her voice, sonorous, almost reminds you of La Lupe, pure soar of puro teatro. But it is the song itself that lured you into loving The Cure and Robert Smith's red lipstick pout and hair sprayed into an upright crown of curls. In 8th grade, you kept thinking of his build into the phrase, whenever I'm alone with you. You are alone, separated, and on this shuttle car. Adele sings this song that permeates more than 20 of your years. It is new again, like the moment when you begin singing to your reflection in the car's window, like a girl with a hairbrush and the perfect mirror to pose. Hands thrown up, pointing, tapping to your chest, eyes closed. This is your concert, a serenade to break tears, and you tell yourself, you make me feel like I am clean again. You make me feel like I am young again, however far away, however long I stay, whatever words I say. And you point at your chest and say, I will always love you. The shuttle stops, doors open, no one enters, doors close. You press repeat and start singing some short triumph again.
Wonderful. Thank you, honey.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Let me give you, hold your hand a minute.
You get to hold
Wonderful.
my hand. So, should I scoot? How do we do this so I can...
John, give her a hand, honey.
Okay, I just don't want to bump the mic. All right.
No, you're good.
Cool. Thank you. I'll step to the side.
Just watch yourself there.
Yes. Ooh.
Next is we have Gabrielle Calvocoressi. I hope I'm saying that correctly. I'm Italian, so if I can't say that correctly, I'm in trouble. She's
Can I do this though?
That's great.
Oh, old friends, right? Like poetry.
We're due to go to the beach again.
Yes.
Okay, sit down, darling, while I introduce you. Gabriella is the author of The Last Time I Saw Amelia Earhart, Apocalyptic Swing, a finalist for the LA Times Book Prize, and Rocket Fantastic, winner of the Audre Lorde Award for lesbian poetry. Calvocoressi is the recipient of numerous awards and fellowships, including a Stegner Fellowship and a Jones Lectureship from Stanford University, a Mona Jaffe Women Writers Award, a Lennon Foundation residency in Marfa, Texas, the Burden F. Concert I'm having trouble. From the Past Museum and a residency from the Philatelia Giovanelli Foundation, among others. Their poems have been published or are forthcoming in numerous magazines and journals, including the Baffler, the New York Times, Poetry, Boston Review, Academy Review, Tin House, and the New Yorker. She's the editor-at-large at Los Angeles Review of Books and poetry editor at Southern Cultures. And I'm not going to read the rest because I'm having difficulty pronouncing things. And
How pleased I am to be here. That's my bio today.
and what?
My bio today is how pleased I am to be here.
Oh, and how pleased I am to have you. I must say that you're in a treat for a writer who is a risk taker, brave as hell, ready to do anything, say anything, whatever she needs to say to claim her space in the world, or their space in the world. Excuse me, I'm old.
It all works for me.
I keep forgetting.
I'm an open vessel.
Oh, good. Okay, get started, darling. I'm waiting to hear you.
Am I going to whistle? It was whistling before.
I'm going to adjust as we speak.
So good. Ming,
Yes.
thank you so much.
Thank
I really appreciate you. And it's so wonderful to be here with you. I have heard so much from so many people about you and like what a rock star. And you know, there are these places that you hope you're going to get asked to read, right? You hope you get to be part of the lineage and the history, because that's, you know, poetry. It's a series of endless conversations. Tara and I have known each other forever, you know, and it's a great honor to be here with you.
Thank
and all
you.
You've brought to American poetry and just your poems, and I feel very honored today. Thank you.
Thank you, and I feel honored to have you here.
And Smita, who's been helping with everything.
Everything.
I mean, no one can make an itinerary more difficult than me, let me tell you. And, she has been extraordinary, and just all of you. It's a kind of chilly, rainy day, and there's lots of places other people can be, and we're all here together. And so I just really, really, really appreciate all of you. I've learned so much today. Tara, what was the name of the reading? Like, I first met you in New York. I think so. Because what was the reading series that Lynn Prokop and...
Bar 13?
Yeah. I feel like maybe I first met you at Bar 13.
It starts to blur together.
Right? It's a long time ago. I mean, once I was young.
Oh, you're still young, honey. Take it from me.
But you still have great hair.
I mean,
Yeah.
you know. I mean, the person who cuts my hair said, the streak you have, said, you know, people pay a lot of money for that. And I said, gosh, if I could have paid money for it and not earned it, it would have been great. You know, like, it's what my hair. So the name is Italian, but we're Greek. And, you know.
Oh, that's very funny.
My hair is the only Greek thing about me in terms of how I look. But, you know, I just get up in the morning and it's like. We talked a lot today in class about vessels and the vessel of the body and the vessel of the poem. And who am I? I don't know, still. Shave. Like the buck I am, I turn my head side to side. I hear the leaves rustle. I shake my head a little, and birds reel round the forest. I am no branch. My head turns to the side. I see out my side eye. The deep pool of the eye sees itself pool in the mirror. I oil myself till I am all a lather. My chest heaves out so my full heart can abandon the ribs stockade. Where the bullet would go if the hunter were a good shot, that's where I place the razor. I make my skin taut. I pull my own neck back and to the side. I come for myself. Yes, I was a lady once, but now I take the blade and move it slowly past the jugular, up the ridge of my chin where the short hairs glisten. I was once ashamed. It was a thing I did in private, my own self, my quarry, no more. Look how the doe comes round, and also the doves, and also the wolf who lets me pass. The fox offers me the squirrel's hide to buff myself to shining. There is no such thing except the smoothness of my face. I mean, you know, the minute someone who was born in a body like I was goes into the CVS and buys that Mach 3 razor and a little shaving cream and goes home and shaves, oh, it's like true liberation. I read at a high school, and I remember I said, everyone, you know, who at some point, you know, has thought of themselves as in, you know, was in perhaps a female body that they weren't as comfortable with. And if you've ever wanted to go get that razor and shave your face, although Elizabeth Taylor also shaved with a razor. Yes. I said, you know, just go to the CVS and just say, like, just grab it and then go home and shave your face. And all the young people, and then I found out that it was Parents' Day on Visitors' Day, like for admissions. So I couldn't figure out why there was this whole other group of people like staring at me. That's what you get for inviting me to your school. I mean, yeah. This is interesting. Today is the day after the anniversary of my mother's death. She took her life when I was 13. And, you know, I think about, you know, her death all the time, and I think about how it was a death that was brought about by many things, mental illness, but certainly also poverty, and certainly also a government that didn't care about, you know, we spend a lot of time in our lives in places where there's been tremendous disinvestment, and then there's the bodies who have been disinvested from. And it was very powerful last night, which was the anniversary of her death, to think, gosh, here I am reading poems. You know, here I am getting to do that. And it's such a blessing, and it's also, it helped me think of her even more. The sun got all over everything, over the boys and girls by the pool, over the bougainvillea, which got so hot my palms stayed warm for minutes after. It made a mess of a day that was supposed to be the worst and lured me outside, so I forgot her death entirely. And also the polar bears scrambling on the ice chips, and also that there was no water in the Golden State. The pool was full and the sun poured over the women's bodies, so you had to shade your eyes, or I did. I had to put my hand up to see what they were saying. I know it's no excuse, and I had made a plan to cry all day and into the evening. I marked it in my book, which seems like something I'd make up in a poem, except this time I actually did it. I wrote, grieve, because we're all so busy, aren't we? And so broke. I needed to make an appointment with my anguish so I could take my mind off buying groceries that I really couldn't afford. Anyway, I didn't mean to go outside, except there the sky was, just ridiculously blue, taunting me with a pigment that I felt the need to name. And from somewhere close by, a voice I couldn't see because the sun was like a yolk cracked over it said, "What are you drinking?" And I said, "I'm grieving. I'm very busy remembering. I made an appointment because last year I forgot and then felt awful." The sun opened its mouth and made a gong of the canyons. It poured across the girls and slicked across their Dior lenses. I put my tongue on it, exactly when I should have been tearing at my clothes and lighting candles. I got on top and let it find the tightness in my back and open where my wings would be. Somewhere, my mother was dying, and someone was skinning a giraffe. And I let it go. I just let it go. It's amazing, you know. And do you have that, like, some years, it's some years I remember on the day, and then some years I don't, you know, and then I turn around and... This building reminds me of a much better version of the Catholic school I went to for a while. St. Thomas Aquinas in Hartford, in West Hartford, but right on the border of Hartford. I grew up in Hartford. And I lived with my grandparents in a small town in Connecticut for a while on the Connecticut River. And then it was time to move in with my father and my stepmother. And I have a visual disability, a neurological difference called nystagmus. And so if you come up close to me, you'll notice my eyes go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And it affects all kinds of things. But one thing was that I didn't walk until I was about 3 years old, 3.5 years old. And then I couldn't do stairs for a really long time. And I always think about this. I think when I was with my grandparents in Middle Haddam, Connecticut, near East Hampton, Connecticut, rural, not fancy, you know, I was allowed to use the boys' bathroom at school. And then when I moved in with my father and my stepmother, I was going to go to Catholic school, and there were 2 rules. Well, 3 rules. I had to wear the dress for the uniform. I couldn't wear pants. I had to use the girls' bathroom. I could not use the boys' bathroom. And I had to be able to get up and down stairs by myself. No one was going to help me. This is like pre-ADA, right? Like I had to go there. My classroom would be on the 2nd floor. So I remember I moved in with my father and my stepmother, and I spent that whole summer in the apartment building trying to learn how to get up and down stairs by myself so I could, you know. Yeah, it's funny the things stay with you. But what I think is this building reminds me of that school, and yet I came in and it made me think of it, and then I was like, oh, but this is a place of poetry. Healing happens everywhere. Probably God is more in here than God was in that building, I think.
I bet.
Yeah, right? God would come to the Poetry Center. Achingly beautiful, how the sky blooms umber at the end of the day through the canopy. Summers spent practicing in the apartment stairwell, hand on the banister, 1 foot after another. Did I ever tell you I couldn't walk until I was 3 and then sort of dragged myself up and down stairs until I was 7 or 8? That burgundy carpet. I'd stop to breathe and look out the window over brick tenements toward the Capitol building. Oak leaves so full of late summer sun, even I thought obscene, and stood stunned for a moment. My God. The urge to rest like the birds on the phone wires, chatting like barristers at the end of the day. Myself, the useless ambassador from the 3rd floor. I was the last one up, so the door was left open. I can still see it gaping from 2 stories down. Sometimes music played. Sometimes I'd smell supper. Neighbors stopped to say hello. achingly beautiful, how the sky looked as I stood after they left. Nicer somehow in the middle, all the trees tucking blackbirds into their darkness. It really did take this long. It takes a long time to learn how to walk. She ties my bow tie. She does. And, well, this is an interesting thing. I want to make sure I can talk until 7:30 at night, and then all of a sudden, no one wants me here anymore. My partner Angeline would actually say she does not tie my bow tie; she fixes my bow tie. I say, "Oh, I wrote this poem." She ties my bow tie, and Angeline, who Tara has met, was like, "But I fix your bow tie." But I was like, that's not a name for a poem, right?
No,
like, try it. She fixes my bow tie.
No.
Yeah,
Tying
where's the
is much
romance?
better. Where's the romance?
She ties my bow tie. What you thought was the sound of the deer drinking at the base of the ravine was not their soft tongues entering the water, but my love tying my bow tie. We were in our little house just up from the ravine. Forgive yourself. It's easy to mistake her wrists for the necks of deer. Her fingers move so deftly, one could call them skittish, though not really, because they aren't afraid of you. I know. You thought it was the deer, but they're so far down you couldn't possibly hear them. No, this is the breeze my love makes when she ties me up and sends me out into the world. Her breath pulled taut and held until she's through. I watch her in the mirror, not even looking at me. She's so focused on the knot and how to loop the silk into a bow. Fixes it, ties it. What's the difference? She's still the one who has loved me for 30 years somehow. The up, the down, the up, the down. This is a poem that has a title from a sentence and a story by Grace Paley, who, Lord, we miss Grace Paley. Did Grace Paley ever come here?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Grace is like...
She was wonderful, but
Yeah.
I never got her.
Yeah. No. She's. It's funny. There are lots of people I know who say that. They're like, I always wanted Grace Paley. I never had. She's enigmatic too, but really a wonderful writer and an incredible person. This is called "I Was Popular in Certain Circles." I was popular in certain circles, among the river rats and the leaves, for example. I was huge among the lichen, and the waterfall couldn't get enough of me. And the gravestones, I was hugely popular with the gravestones. Also with the meat liquefying beneath. I'd say to the carrion birds, I'd say, "Are you an eagle? I can't see so well." That made us laugh until we were screaming, "Eagle, imagine." The vultures loved me so much, they'd feed me the first morsel. From their delicate talons, which is what I called them, such delicate talons. They loved me so deeply they'd visit in pairs, one to feed me, one to cover my eyes with its velvety wings, which were heavy as theater curtains, which I was sure to remark on. "Why can't I see what I'm eating?" I'd say. And the wings would pull me into the great bird's chest, and I'd feel the nail inside my mouth. What pals I was with the scavengers, and the dead things too. What pals! As for the living, the fox would not be outdone. We'd sit on the cliff's edge and watch the river like a movie, and I'd say, "I think last night." And the fox would put his paw on top of mine and say, "Forget it. It's done." I mean, we had fun. You haven't lived until a fox has whispered something the ferns told him in your one good ear. I mean, truly, you have not lived. Yeah, let it all drop. Let technology drop to the floor. I'm just going to read one. Poetry is the only technology, and love. Maybe they're the same thing.
think I have time for one more poem.
Yeah. No, actually, I think you have more time than that, but wait a minute.
Really? It's like 3?
You have another.
It's time. I'll read one
You have
more.
another. Excuse me, I'm having trouble speaking and adding. You could go till 2:10, so you have another 15 minutes.
Oh, well, I think, I got my watch list. Look at me ticking. I mean, I don't want to argue. It's perfect. But I'll read a couple more then. But I know some folks, yeah.
Please, we want you to.
I mean, I'm so thrilled to be here. Well, then maybe I'll read one. Maybe it's time for a fairy tale. A fairy tale and one more. Oh, wow. It's interesting. Yeah. Sometimes I feel like New York and New Jersey and just the Northeast for me are just like elegy on top of elegy on top of elegy, but also like ode on top of ode on top of ode, but all of it, like, 4 long years at court. I really miss the forest and how I used to hide there with the queen. I miss how we used to dance and how we'd run from court. I miss the buttons. Oh, her buttons. How they'd shine in a late light when she wasn't looking at me, arriving in the thicket, where she'd somehow gotten first. I wish she'd stepped down for the first time again to greet me in the great hall where all the beasts' heads hovered. All the torches lit her from within. I was looking at the white bat cup the buck's rack, swinging in the firelight like a lantern. I saw its bones, saw the fingers hook onto the antler. There she was, beside me, watching me not see her. You look to your right and time becomes a torch blown huge. It was like that. The bat looked like an otter's stomach blown into a lamp. I told her so, the way you will. If I had turned away toward the ladies dancing, toward the door, and walked out to the courtyard, toward the axes lined in rows and clean. I miss how we'd walk into the clearings and the caves. The deer walked up from the ravines and stared. I wasn't scared of them or me, even with the things I'd done. Not when she was there. I was so enamored of the bat, swinging. I could see its body through the thin shroud of its wings. I thought I could kill it with one hand. There she was, watching me think it, watching me shake the thought of other things into the darkness of the hall. She touched my shoulder. Did I sing? Sometimes to myself, sitting by the river or in the night to keep me safe. Sometimes my name softly to myself to remind me. Once beside my mother, who'd swelled to the size of a sheep. The deer's in the thicket, the fox is in the glade. Like that, till she stopped breathing, and after, as I watched the women wash her, not scared anymore, neither one of us, I told her so. How I sang. Of the fox and the deer, she held me in the clearing. We could see the towers from there. It feels so long ago, and also like yesterday, stepped down from her throne and then together in the forest, that fast, and also through the hours beside the king. Turn toward me, I'd think it as she sat, turn. All the beasts' heads waiting, the beasts' mouths open, the lynx with its pink tongue, the deer, the deer, the deer, one after another on the walls, the hinds and hearts, the 10-point stag I took down as a mercy after the king missed its chest 7 times. I killed him as he tried to crawl away. I sang, "Stop!" Sang, "The deer's in the thicket." As his eyes rolled, "The fox is in the glade." I took his antler in my left hand and pulled back, hey, lolly, lolly. Pulled back until he groaned. I miss the moment before it started. The body, just a figment. The deer, nothing but a song I sang beside my mother as she died. It can take forever. You can make a life up in the time it takes to watch your mother die. I was in the glade. No, I was in the bedroom. No, I was nowhere in the story, was nowhere to be found. I want her back. I want the castle and the bat. I even want the stag who couldn't make up his mind if he should die or not, if he should let me pull his neck back or not. Get loose and double, I'd sing alone in my room or on the train or as I walked to work. The world around a tapestry. I'd cock my head, I'd see the stag. I'd cock my head, I'd see the men in business suits. I miss the queen. I want her here, beside me. The knoll points like a glade where she'd lay me down beside the stream, the beetles' armies resting on the rocks, the towers in the distance. Your friends are with you, then they're gone. Your mother's with you, then she's gone. My armor shone all morning. By nightfall, it was blood and ash. Hey, lolly, lolly, the foxes in the glade, the debt collectors and the cans of soup. 1 minute you're a castle, the next you're just a cloud. Turn around. Turn around in the late light. If I cock my head, I can see the armies. I could have walked from court and just kept going. Did I sing? Ask the fox, or the stag with his neck pulled back. I want it back.
Mm.
And then I'll just read one last poem, and I thank you so much, and I thank Tara, oh my gosh, all these years together. And I thank you.
Thank you,
for
Amy.
helping me be part of this long line. Hammond B3 cistern organ. And this one's for my mom today. And for everyone. The days I don't want to kill myself are extraordinary. Deep bass. All the people in the streets waiting for their high fives and leaping. I mean leaping when they see me. I am the sun-filled god of love. Or at least an optimistic undersecretary. There should be a word for it. The days you wake up and do not want to slit your throat. Money in the bank, enough for an iced green tea every weekday and Saturday and Sunday. It's like being in the armpit of a Hammond B3 organ, just reeks of gratitude and funk, the funk of ages. I am not going to ruin my love's life today. It's like the time I said yes to gray sneakers, but then the salesman said, wait. And there, out of the back room, like the bakery's first biscuits, bright blue kicks, iridescent, like a scarab. Oh, who am I kidding? It was nothing like a scarab. It was like bright blue fucking sneakers. I did not want to die that day. Oh my God. Why don't we talk about it? How good it feels. And if you don't know, then you're lucky, but also, you poor thing. Bring the band out on the stoop. Let the whole neighborhood hear. Come on, everybody, say it with me nice and slow. No pills, no cliff, no brains on the floor. Bring the bass back. No robe, no hose. Not today, Satan. Every day I wake up with my good fortune and news of my demise. Don't keep it from me. Why don't we have a name for it? Bring the bass back. Bring the band out on the stoop. Hallelujah. Thanks so much.
You're wonderful.
Thank you. Oh, what a perfect time. Wow. What's the first reading you ever had here?
Oh my God.
Do you remember?
In this building?
Yeah.
let's see, that might have been Stanley Kunitz.
Who was the teacher of, see, there's the ghost. He was the great teacher of all my teachers. So I always say I come through Stanley.
Yeah, but he was wonderful. What a wonderful human being he was. And what a wonderful poet.
Yeah.
Could make you cry and laugh in the same moment.
And taught me how to write about suicide because of his dad. Yeah.
He's wonderful, wonderful. And generous.
Yeah.
What I remember is he stayed for the open reading. Now, he
Yeah.
didn't have to stay for the open reading, for God's sake, but he stayed for the open reading.
Yeah.
So that's always amazed me that he would be, and I think he was about 96 at the time.
Yeah.
And he didn't give up. He stayed.
Yeah.
Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah. Wait, do we have time to read one Stanley Kunitz poem?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Can we
We
just
always
like,
have-
'cause
we
Stanley,
always have time
Oh, it's
for-
2:10, so it's perfect. I ended at 2:10 like I was supposed to, and now let's just read quickly Stanley Kunitz, The Portrait. I mean,
Oh, the portrait. I love that.
that's
poem.
such a good ghost, that Stanley. Do people know this poem, The Portrait by Stanley
Yeah,
Kunitz? So many people.
It's in Unsettling America. I think it's
Yeah.
also an identity lesson. I think
Yeah.
I used it twice.
It's one of the great. Oh, wait. Oh my gosh. Hold on, folks. I thought it was going to be me, but hold on. Is it real? Oh, they say it's a recording, but then they don't let you. Okay, too bad. I thought we were going to get to listen to him read it. The Portrait by Stanley Kunitz. My mother never forgave my father for killing himself, especially at such an awkward time and in a public park that spring when I was waiting to be born. She locked his name in her deepest cabinet and would not let him out, though I could hear him thumping. When I came down from the attic with the pastel portrait in my hand of a long-lipped stranger with a brave mustache and deep brown level eyes, she ripped it into shreds without a single word and slapped me hard. In my 64th year, I can feel my cheek still burning.
Oh, God, he's
Stanley.
amazing. He's so wonderful,
Yeah.
so wonderful.
Thank you, thank you.
Great, thank you. Now, let's give both writers a round of applause. And then, has anybody signed up for the open reading? Do we have any people who, all right, well, what we'll do is, we'll wait, because there are only a few people who want to read in the open reading. Let's just do that. Go ahead, Robert.
Okay. The quiet poet, right? Okay. A day at the Coliseum. Up close, and you didn't have to be that close, you could see the uneven risers, the treads too, like broken teeth. Cracks looked like they had been in place for centuries and growing wider each day. By now they were misshapen, some longer in tooth, some higher than the others. The cages for untamed African beasts didn't seem to be in much better shape. I pity the poor lions and tigers that had to spend the rest of their lives in captivity, transported from one coliseum, one arena to the next, providing entertainment for the hicks from the Roman countryside. Pretty soon, the sport devolved into bullfighting, which would soon be exported to Spain and Portugal, then overseas to New World colonies. By 2013, on our visit from a cruise ship docking at Civitavecchia, forget it.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, it's a port city for Rome. These cement artifacts became severe tripping hazards for the unwary and infirm. Togas got caught beneath the bath sheets, paper towels draped over food, and drinks spilled across steps and flew down to lower levels. Spills led to screaming and fighting. There'd be more raucous excitement in the stands than in designated battle zones. Lions and tigers looked up into the spectator sections, seriously bemused and startled. So would underpaid gladiators who needed to make a living. What's all the noise about on the mezzanine level in food court? It looked like the jungle quadrupeds thought. In the governor's box, sergeants at arms admonished the fans to stay in their seats and keep noise levels down. No fighting, no stabbing. Even when lawyers took only a third of a recovery, XXX 111 over C, for their labors, not including costs. The more things change, the more they remain the same.
Bob. Fran? Be careful, honey.
I had taken a workshop, a Zoom workshop with James Reese, and one of the prompts that he gave was, I stole it. And I couldn't get anything, I couldn't write about anything then, but then I played with it later, and I got this, so I'll read this. It's called Hula Dancer. I stole it because it was tacky, and I knew who picked it out, my ex-boyfriend, whom my best friend had stolen right from under my nose. I pretended to forgive them both, even agreeing to be in their wedding. But when I saw this pink plastic hula dancer on their bookshelf between Crime and Punishment and the Brothers Karamazov, I couldn't resist tossing it into my bag while my friend was in the John. It was one of those trinkets with a switch underneath that made the doll's hips undulate. I could hear his horsey laugh when he first turned her on, and my best friend's salacious laughter joining his. It was just like them to bring back a gaudy souvenir from paradise. Actually, I did them a favor, ridding their shelves of something that would have never been purchased if I had been there instead of her.
I love it, Frank. Okay, honey. Say your name so everybody knows it.
Oh, sure. Hi, folks. I'm Saida Agostini. Ooh. Oh. This does. I feel like I'm at Actor Studio. Yes, thanks.
Yeah.
Give me a second to pull this up. So this is like very, very new. It's like 2 days old. And it's part of a collection that I'm working on of sermons, because, you know, when you turn 40, you have sermons to write. A brief sermon on grief for Joy Wong. I've lost so much to death, and it is here crowded in this church with me. Listening to the priest speak on what we can't do to mourn, be it sing or cry or go without prayer. He warns, beware of the selfishness of despair. And I want to take my mummy's hand as if I were 13 again. Watching her mummy, my granny, back home, the first Christmas after imprisoned in Rikers Island. The way we swarmed around her, the gifts crowding out even a hint of the floor. Granny surrounded by torn paper and ribbons, expensive sweaters she would never wear, turned her head to a white wall and wailed with the defiant rage. The only time I remember her so unbowed and beautiful, almost incandescent. We could never talk of prisons around her or the family friend who tricked her into ferrying liquid cocaine past pretended American borders, or the burning shame I buried for knowing someone who went to jail. We were so new in our privilege. The suburban house mortgaged to the gills, summer camps at university, the honor roll. I did not want to risk it. God forgive me. So I denied her. God forgive me for never saying, I love you, don't leave me. I'm so glad you're back home. Silence has got to be kind of a sickness with us. I think we deserve more. I think we deserve beauty. We deserve to tell each other things, like how precious we are, how precious Granny was, how brave she must have been in that cell, imprisoned by fools. How I wish at 13 I had courage.
Oh, wonderful. What a wonderful poem. Really wonderful. Okay, guys. Anybody else who'd like to read? Come on, if you. Hi, dear.
It really does feel really special being up here.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
Can you just bring the microphone closer, please? Thank you.
Like, we didn't practice this enough earlier. I was helping Ming set everything up earlier. So. Okay, so I have a poem that I wrote a little while ago. It's called Two Children and a Tarot Spread. My niece bends over the cards like a willow sways before the storm. She reads fluently at 9, so when she says of the piles she made, "This is your past, present, and future," my son believes her. What else are fairy tales made of than this? One child beholden to another for a path through this world. She wiggles her fingers to drop breadcrumbs into his present. She parts the swords and walks with him through the dark forest, blooming in their blood, a lineage of terror, of worry. I can't help but see this girl in my own image, though she isn't mine. I love her the way I can't love myself. Be honest, my husband once said. You don't want another child. But what sort of magic is honesty anyhow? Isn't that why we need pictures to tell a story we already know? The hanged man dangles from a tree by his knees, giddy. I know it's the dizziness of acquiescence, of self-denial. A priestess lays out the future one card at a time while I shuffle an endless deck on the periphery of my own life.
I love it. Beautiful. Somebody else? One more soul wants to go ahead. Come up and say your name, dear.
Very small on the phone. Okay, Marcia LeBeau is my name. I'm glad to be here. Okay. What I'll miss most. Therapy is no match for charcoal clouds stripping sky. A leaf skeleton more trustworthy than a friend's advice. There isn't a thing ocean foam can't explain, and the wind can push the mind into corners it has never seen. I've learned from the way grass bends beneath my feet, doing cha-cha in naked moonlight. Let the dog with its dead possum breath lick my face. Troweling the dirt, I expect no answers, but wake to setting sun. When I'm gone, I'll miss the warmth and shine of that big gold coin, the scent of hickory smoked bacon, the piss whiff of Subway, summer's clarinet through an open window, even the sickeningly sweet candy in its green glass dish, the crack of a ping pong ball, the way we wanted everything, the tissue crinkle, better than the gift.
Okay, is that, I think we've gotten everybody who might possibly want. Anybody else? No? I see people hiding. All right, if you don't want to do it, that's okay. It's wonderful. Thank you all for being here. There's a reception food out there, and please do help yourself. And also, the poets will be signing their books. You can buy books from Smita, and then the poets will be happy to sign books for you. Let's give another round of applause for our wonderful poets and for a wonderful open reading as well.